welcome to Hardtalk India. Almost 4 months after losing power, how is the Bharatiya Janata Party adjusting to being in opposition? And how does it see its future, both in terms of its beliefs and its leadership? Those are two of the critical questions that I shall put today to the leader of the opposition, a man many see as the architect of the BJP, former Deputy Prime Minister Lal Krishna Advani. Mr. Advani, let's start with the BJP's performance as an opposition party since May. Large sections of the media believe that you've been obstructionist and negative. They say that you haven't as yet reconciled yourself to losing power.
Karan, an opposition party has to function both inside parliament and outside. In fact, the BJP's ascendancy to power has been mainly because of its activities outside parliament, because our presence in parliament, except for the last 2 decades, has not been very prominent, very powerful. But our presence outside in the country, among the people, in terms of popularity, has been growing, first gradually, and then in the last 2 decades very phenomenally.
So are you suggesting that as an opposition you're concentrating outside rather than inside parliament?
I wouldn't say that, though I do feel that because of some of the issues raised by government or some of the decisions taken by government made it imperative for the party to react very strongly to them. And that strong reaction in parliament often took forms which I personally do not quite relish, and which, when I got a letter from the Honorable Speaker a few days back that he had discussed the matter of parliamentary proceedings with his counterpart in the upper house, and both of them came to the conclusion that it would be worthwhile calling a meeting of all party leaders and discussing this issue threadbare.
You're saying that when you don't relish what happened in parliament, you seem to also be suggesting that there's a certain measure of regret that parliament wasn't able to function properly.
In a way, yes. I would not say I don't regret it, I regret it. But at the same time, I think that some of the decisions taken by government were so outrageous, and over the past few decades, it has become a kind of a norm to judge the opposition's reaction to outrageous happenings or decisions of government by this touchstone, which is not a happy situation. I remember I came to parliament 34 years back, in 1970 first. And at that time, the utmost expected from an opposition member or an opposition party to register protest was to walk out of the house. That was the maximum expected. Things have changed subsequently.
Except not only have they changed, look at the sort of instances when the BJP did not permit discussion in parliament over the president's address, over the railway budget, over the finance bill. Is it right and proper, no matter what the argument, that parliament shouldn't function and debate and discuss such important issues?
I said I agree with that. I have said I don't relish it. In fact, I said I regret it. But at the same time, people seem to forget that some of these decisions of having something passed without debate was an agreement between the government and the opposition. In fact, the initiative came from the government.
To the detriment of democracy?
To some extent, yes, to the detriment of parliamentary practices.
What about something else? In a democracy, the country looks to the opposition to hold the government to account. India has seen multiple problems in Punjab, in Manipur, runaway inflation, soaring unchecked oil price, and even until recently a hostage crisis. Yet on none of those issues did the BJP hold the government to account in Parliament.
Outside, yes, and inside Parliament, at least so far as the economic issues are concerned, when even before the finance bill, the budget was debated, some of our members made very good contributions to the debates in the House, and therefore only because the finance bill, because of an agreement between the government and the opposition, was passed without debate, the BJP cannot be blamed for that.
Are you now confident, because you've said you've expressed regret, you said that you don't cherish this, are you confident that when Parliament reconvenes in November, this chapter will be closed and healthy debate, discussion and functioning of Parliament will resume?
Therefore, at the very outset, I referred to the letter that I had received from the Honourable Speaker of the Lok Sabha, and where he had mentioned that early in the month of November, he proposed to hold a meeting of all party leaders to discuss how parliamentary debates can be more useful, more purposeful, and there could be debate on all matters of importance.
Are you personally, as leader of the opposition, prepared to let bygones be bygones?
I have no hesitation in that, particularly when I said that Parliament being not able to debate important issues is something I do not relish.
So you will go that extra step to ensure Parliament functions?
On my side, I'll certainly try to do so.
Now, the government has just finished 2 days of talks with Pakistan at the level of Foreign Minister. This was the culmination of a process that your government began in January. Do you believe that the Manmohan Singh government has taken the process further in a satisfactory manner?
I would not like to make a judgment on this particular matter unless I get all the details of what has really transpired between the two foreign ministers. But this I would certainly say, that ever since the NDA government took office, Vajpayee ji became the Prime Minister in 1998, NDA's approach has been very consistent, that it is in the interest of both the people of India as well as the people of Pakistan that the governments of India and Pakistan be friendly governments.
Losing power has not affected your thinking on the subject?
Not at all, not at all, because we believe that it took sustained efforts on the part of the NDA government to achieve the breakthrough that we did early this year in the month of January, when there was a joint statement by President Musharraf and Prime Minister Vajpayee at Islamabad.
And you see no reason to close the door that Mr. Vajpayee opened in January?
Not at all. In fact, we have pursued that policy because we feel that it is in national interest and in the interest of the whole region.
So you would continue to support steps taken by the present government in furthering that policy?
In furthering that policy, at the same time ensuring that the security of India is not in any way jeopardized.
That balance is essential.
That is very essential, because in the past 3 months, I don't want to deal with that particular matter at this point of time. There have been developments which make me, a person who had been directly responsible for national security in the last government, somewhat worried that security, whether it's in the northeast or whether it's in the west or whether it's internal security, there have been certain developments which cause me unease.
And these are developments that you're going to ensure that when Parliament reconvenes and proper debate and discussion happens, are raised in Parliament this time round?
Certainly.
And that's one reason why functioning of Parliament is important.
It's important for all matters. In national interest, functioning of Parliament, in the interest of democracy, functioning of Parliament is imperative.
Let's come to what many believe is a change in the principles, values and beliefs of the Bharatiya Janata Party. In December, when you won the elections in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, you did so on a development agenda promising Sadak, Bijli, Pani. In May, when you fought the national elections, it was on a similar development agenda. But since then, people say that the BJP has begun to question the development agenda, to suggest it's not sufficient, that it needs to be backed up by Hindutva. Has defeat brought about a crisis in your belief?
Not at all. I think even in the earlier assembly elections, if people feel that it was simply because of the development agenda that the BJP won such spectacular victories, I would not agree with that analysis. I would say that the growth of the BJP is very much related to its emphasis on nationalism, on being a nation-first party, and so that has been at the background of the voter who felt happy that while the earlier governments had neglected Bijli, Sadak, Pani, it was this government it was this party in the opposition and which was seeking to become the ruling party, which was emphasizing the need of paying attention to it.
But the question is all about what sort of emphasis. Even in your own words, between March and now, you seem to have somersaulted. For instance, during your Bharat Uday Yatra in March, you said a country as vast and pluralistic as India cannot be ruled by an ideological party. Otherwise, you added, don't think in terms of ruling the country, exist just as an organization to propagate ideology. But at your party's national executive in Bombay in June, after you had lost the national elections, you said, ours is an ideological party. A definite and steadily growing section of our society has been supporting us because of our beliefs and the cause of Hindutva which we espouse. To many, that's a somersault, a huge U-turn.
You have quoted a speech of mine or a statement of mine during the Bharat Uday Yatra, which came only in 2004. But I must have said something similar about an ideological party not ruling a pluralistic country like India as far back as in 1973-74.
But it's the shift in the position from March to June.
I am not saying, but I have always said that our growth, the BJP's growth, owes as much to idealism as it owes to ideology.
But now we were talking not about the BJP's growth, we were talking about the sort of party that is best suited to rule India. Let me be specific. In March on your Bharat Uday Yatra, you said that to rule India, a party should be aggregative and inclusive. Do you stand by that?
I stand by that, and I further add that even in that Bharat Uday Yatra, I said that we would like to get a clear majority. But I would say, on the basis of my experience of the NDA and my experience of the Morarji Bhai government, which was almost a one-party government, that this NDA government, for the 6 years that it ruled the country, it was more representative of the people, of society, of the geography of India, and therefore more equipped to serve the country and promote its interests than a single party government like the Janata Party.
No doubt, but I'm talking about what is aggregative and what is inclusive, because if you think a party has to be aggregative and inclusive to rule India, then why are you suddenly, after your defeat, stressing Hindutva? The minorities believe it excludes them, and many Hindus don't embrace it.
And therefore you would have noticed that at our last meeting at Goa, the word Hindutva was not stressed. Indianness was stressed. Nationalism was stressed.
So are you saying
and it was emphasized that when we talk of Hindutva, we do not mean anything other than Bharatiyata or Indianness.
So you're accepting a point that Mr. Vajpayee made in an interview to the Times of India in April. He said, I prefer Bharatiyata to Hindutva. You're saying the same thing?
Absolutely.
In other words, when in Bombay, your party in its document Task Ahead said we should not be defensive or apologetic, you weren't suggesting that you were jettisoning your earlier positions and going back to Hindutva at all. You were simply saying it's a balance we need.
Because I believe that a party which aspires to go forward and command the respect of the people who have brought it to power, they should never be apologetic. They should be able to voice their views and feelings in an idiom understood by the maximum number of people without alienating any section.
Which is why...
Which we have done since 1952. people may not be aware that this problem of Hindutva, Bharatiyata, etc., has been with us since 51, 52.
But you said something very important today, Mr. Advani, and I'm reiterating it. You're saying that the party's ideology, as you see it today, is best expressed by the word Bharatiyata rather than Hindutva.
That has been all along. But at the same time, when an attack came on us because we interpret Bharatiyata in terms which some else others call Hindutva, and which was endorsed even by the Supreme Court of India, I said, don't be apologetic about it.
Absolutely, but so that
if you are apologetic about it, you will not be able to impress the people.
So that there's clarity, because there's the beginning of a clear line coming across, but I want to be absolutely clear. Let's briefly talk about the vision document that your party produced in March. At the time, Pramod Mahajan said this was a document that would last for 20 years. Do you agree with that?
I think it was well drafted, well produced, but today, if I am to speak about 20 years, I think it was a very good document.
Is it the vision document of the party still today?
Yes.
Okay, because that vision document marked certain important landmark shifts in the BJP's position. I want to very quickly check you on those. The first was, in the vision document, you dropped your traditional demand for the abrogation of Article 370. In fact, Article 370 isn't even mentioned by name. Is that still the BJP's position?
I would think that Article 370 was very, very relevant when Dr. Mukherjee first raised it, and for a long time thereafter.
A half century ago.
Yes, and for a long time thereafter. But the kind of developments that have taken place in Jammu and Kashmir in the past few years, and the manner in which we have tried to deal with them, sort them out, so that they contribute to strengthening the integration of the state with India, but at the same time they contribute towards removing the misgivings of all sections of the people in Jammu and Kashmir.
You're confusing audiences by the length at which you're answering. Are you saying, yes, we have dropped the demand for the abrogation?
Today it's not there.
It's not there.
Today.
But
at the same time, there may come a time when even the people of Jammu and Kashmir would say that Article 370 is not needed now.
Quite right, but today it's not there.
Today it's not there.
Okay. A second important shift in the vision document was to do with the Uniform Civil Code, which your party has championed for decades. According to the vision statement, you said it could only happen if a political or social consensus evolved in its favor. Do you stand by that still?
That's right.
At the time, Pramod Mahajan almost with pride pointed out that this in fact was a position akin to that of the left parties. He said that was a measure of how much the BJP had moved on this issue. Would you agree with him?
I would think that many of the other parties take positions on this issue because of considerations of vote bank politics.
You don't?
I don't. I would say that this particular commitment is not only a commitment of the BJP, it's a commitment of the constitution makers who incorporated it in the directive principles.
Quite
of
right.
Indian
But the position of the BJP is the position as articulated in the vision statement.
That's
that
right.
This can only happen when there's a political and social consensus.
That's right.
Now, the third issue on which you appear to shift was the question of the building of the Ram Mandir. In your 1998 manifesto, amongst many things, you also said that you would explore constitutional means. That was dropped from the vision statement. Now you are committed to either observing a judicial verdict or a negotiation mutually agreed to by the two parties. You stand by that as well?
I stand by that, except that when this particular vision document was drafted, we were proceeding with the process of negotiation, and it was a very optimistic position, which optimistic position would have become a reality if our government had come back to power, if we had been
Quite
returned.
right. And now there's a question mark
now
over
it's
it.
a question mark. But so basically, even though I stand by the vision document statement made, I see no objection to constitutional means also being explored.
You're wriggling out of something that I thought you
I'm not wriggling out, but I do believe still that a negotiated settlement on the issue is the most enduring and is the best possible.
People listening to you will get the feeling that he's half conceding that he stands by the vision document, and then when you push him, he adds a little caveat and brings something back in again.
No, I am not bringing it anything, except, as you said, even on the Uniform Civil Code, I can never forget that it is part of the Indian Constitution.
And I don't want you to. But you're standing by the vision document still.
By and large.
By and large, in terms of the issues I've discussed, you stand by.
Yes.
Very quickly in that case, the second challenge the BJP faces is that of leadership. Mr. Vajpayee is almost 80, you're almost 77. In 3 years' time, both of you will be in your 80s. Has the time come to pass the baton to a younger generation?
We've already done it in many ways, in our selection of party office bearers, in our selection of candidates. Perhaps no other party in the country has been trying to build up a second-rank leadership in the systematic manner in which the BJP has been doing.
Except the real test will be the question, who will lead the BJP at the next elections?
It's long. We do not know when the next election comes. It depends very much on that.
There's a very interesting and important change. Before May, when this question was asked, you would have said unequivocally Atal Bihari Vajpayee. You haven't said that now.
Because the elections were due. Today I do not know, as you have rightly said, that in 3 years Vajpayee ji, Advani will be beyond 80, and so it may need someone else. I do not know. If suppose
so in 3 years from now,
which is unlikely, but if suppose this government lasts for 5 years, I can't say it
quite
today.
right. If this government lasts for 5 years, at the next elections, the BJP will be led by someone other than Vajpayee and Advani.
Quite likely.
Quite likely or definitely?
Quite likely. No, I can't say definitely, because
But quite likely.
Quite likely.
The party is therefore preparing for not just a generation change, but a leadership change and a new man at the front, or new woman.
Quite likely.
Do you have a candidate you support?
No, not today. We don't support candidates. It comes up.
It will be democratically elected.
And you see what we did in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, or even in Chhattisgarh. The manner in which we did it, it yielded results.
Mr. Advani, a pleasure having you on the program.